The first Terra is practically non-existent. The second Terra wasn't anything exciting. Trance Terra was great for a period of time, but then fell off hard. Magic Tech Warrior Terra had some promise, but wasn't too spectacular. And then Neo Vision Terra just comes in and blows them and everyone else out of the water. So yeah, normal Final Fantasy Brave Exvius. We start with her Trustmaster reward, a materia that raises your unit's magic by 60% and their evoke damage by 25%. There aren't that many units that care about evoke damage, but Terra here happens to be one of the few viable units that use it. A lot of her damage originates from the stat, so it's very important that you raise it for her. Her Super Trustmaster reward is her upgraded sword. Not only does it give a lot of magic, it also increases her evoke damage even further. Onto her active abilities. Her magic attacks chain with Chaos Wave Awakened. Blizzara deals ice damage, Thundara deals lightning damage, and Faraga deals fire damage. Faraga happens to be stronger than Blizzara and Thundara, as Terra seems to excel with fire attacks. Unlock Magic is a brave ability that requires 3 Esper Orbs. It raises her magic stat by 280% and lets her quadruple cast. Meltdown can be used twice. It's a fire attack that partially ignores the enemy spirit. Let's look at her passives. As a summoner, she can activate any Esper in your party. If she summons Ifrit, Shiva, or Rama, it'll increase everyone's fire, ice, or lightning magic damage by 25%, depending on the Esper you summoned. Only one area effect can be applied at a time, though you can certainly go ahead and overwrite one if you please. On another note, when it means it buffs everyone, it includes your enemies as well. Of course, this is offset by the fact that players get to pick their battles, so there are plenty of ways to work around this. Let's look at her other passives. But for Trustmaster Reward or Super Trustmaster Reward equipped, she'll gain some status ailment resistance and a 30% boost to her physical evasion. If she dual wields, she'll raise the chain modifier cap, increasing her damage output even further. She also has a magic killer against aquatic and dragon enemies. When she enters the battle, she'll immediately fill your Esper gauge. She also has some fire, ice, and lightning elemental resistance. Onto her Limit Burst. It's a magic attack that actually chains with Chaos Wave Awakened. It also boosts everyone's Limit Burst damage by 25%, which can be combined with a regular Limit Burst damage boost. Alright, let's change forms. Her Brave Shift gives her one of the best sprites in the game, alongside some outrageous amounts of damage. In return, it's only available for 2 turns and has a 3-turn cooldown. Let's look at her active abilities. Chaos Wave chains with Chaos Wave. It's also completely irrelevant, so let's move on. Trance Limit fills her Limit Burst gauge by a good amount and raises her Limit Burst damage by 150%. Magitech Barrier gives herself a 75% general mitigation buff. Magitech Power Release, Fire, raises her magic by 300% and her fire damage by 15%. Trance Burst can be used twice. It's a souped up version of Trance Limit, completely filling her Limit Burst gauge and raising its damage by 250%. It also lowers the enemy's fire resistance by 120%. Her passives are about the same, though her Evo magic stat is boosted to an incredible extent. Her Limit Burst damage is increased further, and her elemental resistance rises by a decent amount. Now for the real reason we're here, her Limit Burst. It's a single attack that deals fire evoke damage. And with Terra's various multipliers at work, her Limit Burst damage has the potential to absolutely skyrocket. But let's pull back and upgrade her Brave abilities. I can't actually recommend you spend your time upgrading these, as their impact is fairly minimal, or completely surpassed by other abilities. But if I must rank them, I suggest raising Faraga to increase its damage, Unlock Magic to raise its stat boost, and then finally Chaos Wave because I have no idea why you'd even use it. Onto her damage rotation. On turn 1, activate her Brave Shift. Use Trance Burst, Unlock Magic, and Magitech Power Release, Fire. On turn 2, activate her Limit Burst. At this point, the enemy should be dead, but if you somehow messed up, I may as well cover the rest of her damage rotation. On turn 3, triple cast Faraga and top it off with Meltdown. Repeat for turn 4. On turn 5, you can use her base form Limit Burst if it's ready. On turn 6, activate her Brave Shift once again, boost her damage output to infinity and beyond, and on turn 7, unleash everything that Power Creep has to offer. You know, when I reviewed Sora from Kingdom Hearts 3, I said that he practically surpassed everyone. And now that I have the chance, I'm going to go ahead and apply that to Terra. Her few support abilities may not be incredibly significant, but every little bit helps when raising your unit's damage output. Of course, her own damage output is also outrageous, though you may want to keep in mind that she doesn't lower the enemy spirit at all. At this point, I may as well talk a bit about Evoke Damage. First off, it differs from your regular physical, magical, and hybrid damaging abilities. While it's still affected by things like elemental resistance and your chain number, it won't be affected by dual wielding, elemental weapons, and most significantly, killer boosts. It also ignores your enemy's evasion, counterattacks, physical and magical mitigation, resistance, and cover effects. It's really a mixed bag, as while it ignores type mitigations that most trials utilize, you're losing out on a lot of your potential damage output that comes from killer effects. This also means Mastermind Zaun's ability to spread killer effects loses its relevance if you wanted to throw it on Terra. On another note, there may be some players who like to look at tier lists and damage spreadsheets. As useful as they are, most of them don't take things like killers into account, mainly because of the sheer amount of variety. They do, however, include Evoke boosts, which makes Terra look incredibly inflated compared to everyone else. But even with that being said, Terra is still capable of some very big numbers, and as her Evoke damage deals magical damage, you find that Terra excels in the magical stages and dark visions. If she dual wields, she'll push the chain modifier cap even further, thus increasing her damage output by a significant amount. If you want to raise that damage output, you want to focus on her Brave Shift's Limit Burst, which is mainly affected by her magic stat, Evo magic stat, Evo damage, and Limit Burst damage. Generally, you'd want to balance these things out, but her passives and actives already go ahead and cover most of these. As such, you really want to focus on giving her equipment that raises her Evo damage stat. Thanks for watching, and if you like this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Comment below if you have enough Lapis to afford Terra. Personally, I have to figure out how to get 10,000 Lapis in 2 weeks.